The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor,
Happy Friday, folks.
Ben Ark from LN Bit,
Good evening, everyone. Good start.
and I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one, Washout. Crypto Washout sends Bitcoin below $58,000 ahead of Fed decision. Whoop, Bitcoin climbs back to $59,000 after Fed signals it's unlikely to raise rates. Meanwhile, people continue to predict that the price of Bitcoin can break $1 million. Dan Eve, what do you think about the price, and the price of Bitcoin?
Well, it seems like it does seem like Bitcoin's being quite resilient on after quite a coordinated attack. But I think it seems a bit uncanny that Ver gets taken down, the Samurai bot devs get taken down, well, pretty much in the same week. Then you've got just I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot going on against Bitcoin right now, and I don't think the infighting is really helping. We need to get back together and be all one big happy family, right? And show everyone how strong Bitcoin is. Then the price everyone's freaking out because we've dumped down to like 57, but we're back up. Well, I think we're back up to 60 now anyway, right? But isn't it crazy how it has this tremendous rally and yet your heart's still stopping when it goes from 74 down to 60, and you're thinking, is it going to go further? Is it going to go further? Well, it's had drawdowns before of like 30%, per and multiple 30% drawdowns all the way up to the pretty much each previous bull run. So this isn't an out of the ordinary at all. We've probably possibly got a little bit way further to go. So hold tight, because there is potential, that we're going to go a bit lower, but hopefully not. But there does seem to be this post-halvening blues, right? Everyone's hungover after the Bitcoin halvening parties, and they expected moon immediately, and it didn't happen. So a bit of FUD mixed in, and Bitcoin drops a bit. Happy days, but we'll see.
Yes, it does seem like it's raining shit on Bitcoin. I agree with you, Dan, but as we predicted here, the halving happened and nothing happened at all. People who, like Dan has said, have been holding for a long time, probably sold, got their profits out. People who don't believe in Bitcoin, don't believe in the halving, bought it for the short term, said, hey, it didn't go up after the short term, I'm out. All this selling pressure plus the bad news, so-and-so got arrested, so-and-so got sentenced. People are like, I don't want to be in that. They're out. They're all selling, but like we've been saying recently, you're selling into the banks now. You're literally letting the banks take your Bitcoin. When you come back for it, they're going to want more. Ben Ark, what do you think about the price? And as Dan said, kind of a coordinated attack against Bitcoin there, like Bitcoin cares.
Yeah, I completely and utterly agree. It's a deliberate and coordinated attack on Bitcoin. We've been speaking about getting a Bitcoin ETF for years, and then the SEC blocked it for as long as possible. And because they knew that as soon as they did allow those Wall Street pricks to start buying Bitcoin, that all that, traditional finance liquidity is going to pour into our little pool and then legitimize Bitcoin, and they haven't really got much of a leg to stand on. So while they were blocking legacy finance being able to step into Bitcoin, they've coordinated and planned an attack to tame it. They want to turn it into a Wall Street plaything. They think, okay, well, you can have your Bitcoin, but you can't have the Bitcoin you want. You can't have Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. You can't have privacy. So yeah, it is a deliberate and a coordinated attack, and I really think that the gloves are off, and this is now the time when we actually have to fight the traditional power bases, which Bitcoin really attacks. They're very concerned about the impact of Bitcoin. It's no longer like this hobbyist, dorky project which we're all involved in our spare time. It's something which really could impact the world's economy. So, and particularly those power bases such as USD hegemony and the US petrodollar and the world reserve currency. So yeah, we should expect more attacks, and we should be vigilant, and we should just continue to build the tools to create this apolitical free and open source money, which the world desperately needs.
Well, and it also simply means that the next Samurai wallet or the next freedom-based wallet won't be done with VC funds. It won't be done out in the open with this kind of obviousness. We've heard that the Samurai wallet materials in their pitch sheet said, hey, we're going to profit from the gray market. There's going to be a little bit from the side here. And they were kind of open about it. That's not going to happen. We've also heard via Twitter that Wasabi Wallet is shutting down their CoinJoin service. So pretty much, if you want privacy on Bitcoin, currently not available, you're going to have to go to some dark alley somewhere. And it seems pretty obvious the feds are going to be there recording in the dark alley. They don't want you to have privacy on Bitcoin. They want you to use the nice, friendly, and safe ETFs or maybe Coinbase. Dan, do you have more on this topic? We've kind of expanded general agreement that there is an attack on Bitcoin.
No, I think that's right. I think they're trying to restrict the avenues, aren't they? And I think that Binance going down was or at least CZ going down was another part of that, right? He's also just got his 4-month sentence. So with BlackRock entering the playing field, you couldn't have Binance being the biggest exchange on earth and not run by someone who's under their form of control. So that's why that kind of WEF guy got put in straight in CZ's place, all in a very, happened. It all slipped in the same day, right? That it was very much pre-planned, it seemed, or at least they knew what was happening up front. So 4 months sentence for CZ is not bad, right? Considering he has paid obviously a very huge fine and a personal fine as well of like 50 million. Wasn't Binance's fine like 4.5 billion and then his personal fine of 50 million or something crazy? So 4 months isn't too bad considering the extent of the issues that they were going after him for. So I think he got out quite lightly with that sentence. So
it does seem like we've entered a new epoch of Bitcoin history with the halving, the ETFs, and now everyone getting sued and arrested. Wait, before we go to this issue, we have to do the ball. We forgot the ball last week.
Let me chime in a little bit more.
All right, more on Ben, but don't forget the ball.
I won't forget the ball there.
People have investments to make here. They were unadvised last week. We made mistakes.
So, hopefully this whole thing will result in more privacy on Bitcoin natively, which is the thing which hopefully Bitcoin is working towards. And I know a couple of core developers, and that is that's where they want it to head. They want it to be zero knowledge proofs on chain, and however we get there at some point, because government's easiest attack on Bitcoin is fungibility and being allowed. Letting people use some coins but not other coins, and it's something we need to defend against, or else we haven't got particularly useful money if it's not fungible. But I actually spoke to Max Hildebrand, our good friend from the show, from World Crypto Network. Of course, he contributed a lot to this show back in the day, and he was very sad to have to stop the CoinJoin part of ZK Snarks. But he's going to go on to build great things, I'm sure. And I don't think anyone begrudges the decision for them having to close their CoinJoin service down, because ultimately, it's always going to prison for, is it? And that's what they want to do. They want to lock people up. So, I applaud Max for all his great work, and I look forward to seeing what he does next. And good luck to him.
Well, on one side, it's very clearly an academic project. You want to provide people with freedom and privacy, the ability to send their money around. And then on the other hand, if you look at it through the government lens, it's like, uh-oh, what are you doing over there? So I think it's a good idea for Max and the rest of the crew to shut it down for now. And I also wanted to say, if we had any worries or any fears, Ben, that maybe the cypherpunks were getting kicked out of Bitcoin and it was getting too corporate, I think we're going to have only cypherpunk development from now on, or perhaps a different branch of pro-corporate developers coming in to really get away from privacy, really to put some hooks in there or something. If your Bitcoin wasn't traded by an ETF, it wasn't traded by Coinbase, maybe you mark it dirty or something, some kind of coin selection Bitcoin. But what do you think? All cypherpunks from here out, anonymous names?
Yeah, the tools are there. Like Max did this amazing talk because when I did the cheat code conference in Bedford, we had the hack space, and Max, God bless him, like he's such a great dude. He came along and did this amazing talk for about an hour on Wasabi and CoinJoins, and he could have. A lot of other people they sort of went off and they went to the after party, and we had quite a small group because of the timing of it. We had quite a small group of people in the hack space, but Max came and did a talk. He's such a trooper, man. He's such but this is why I'm noticing more and more that like those Bitcoiners who've been around for a while, we're all singing off the same hymn sheet and we all want the same thing. And some of them may have to go dark, but they're still going to carry on building. And they're just going to use the tool set we have to be able to provide these services in a way which government can't crack down on. So it'll be good ultimately.
Now, what do you think, Ben? Counterfactual history here. Should we have worked on privacy first instead of scaling? And now that Bitcoin's so public, so successful,
we haven't worked on scaling.
We haven't even worked on scaling. Oh,
no.
Okay. So
the problem is,
not enough
we've all been spoiled by like the low fee environment and Bitcoin not really being attacked apart from just shitcoiners and forks and stuff, and maybe the odd government attack. But we've all been spoiled by that. Privacy hasn't been worked on nearly enough, and scaling hasn't been worked on nearly enough. But I've seen a Cambrian explosion of development on scaling since we had the high fee environment from the ordinals, and with great services like bolts and trustless trustless swaps in and out of Lightning to on-chain and Liquid. And then also, in the privacy realm as well, there's a lot of great things going on. So yeah, it's just going to encourage. It's that hardening effect, isn't it? The more when they attack it and when they limit Bitcoin and try and stagger Bitcoin's growth, it hardens, and then it just repels the attack. So yeah, we've got a lot to hope for and a lot to look for.
And I think it's great that it's NFTs, aka read pornography, that's driving all the new development and the impulses there. Like, too many people are using it. Commercialism has been too successful, and now we need to fix everything. So I do agree with that. I think we're going that way. But we can't leave the topic without giving people their important, prediction here. I mean, we're talking about money line here. ESPN has its own betting service now. The United States is gamble crazy. And I didn't tell you guys last week what the 8-ball said. So Dan Eve predicting against the Magic 8-ball, the bringer and shower of all truth and knowledge in this universe. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher or lower this time next week?
Yeah, I think we're going to be back up next week. Oh man, we're already on 62.7, so that's really made a nice little comeback in 24 hours. So yeah, I think higher next week.
Well, everyone knows the price of Bitcoin goes up when we make our shows, and historically has gone up. Ben, Ark, higher or lower this time next week?
It is certain.
It is certain. Ben's been looking into the ball here, reading behind the rules. Here we go. Shaking it may cause bubbles. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? It says, as I see it, yes. As I see it, yes. The ball has spoken. Price is going back up. Moving on to issue 2, sentenced and arrested. Roger Ver, crypto investor dubbed Bitcoin Jesus, aka Bitcoin Judas, has cheated the United States out of $48 million in taxes, according to the headline of the New York Post. Other people said he was arrested, but they went with cheated. As well as CZ, Binance founder, is given 4 months in prison for failing to implement anti-money laundering measures. He says he's sorry. Roger says it's all a mistake and a misunderstanding. He was arrested in Spain. His tax professionals say that he should not have been arrested. Ben, Ark, what do you think about these new updates on Roger Ver and CZ?
I mean, Roger Ver is like one of those classic diehard libertarian types, and I think it's probably quite likely that he has a tax bill, and it's interesting to think of him having tax professionals. Hopefully they can keep him out of jail, but this prison where they're all going is the inmates are gonna have a right old time, aren't they? But no, like, good luck to Roger Ver. He was good back in the day. He's crackers now, but I think there's a lot of low hanging fruit for this coordinated attack. They can just look all the top 50 Bitcoiners and just go after them, and there's probably some shit they can stick on them. So yeah, just again, be careful out there.
Obviously, we don't have any insider information here, but I agree with Ben. When you think of Roger Ver's tax pros, you think of Ocean 11. There's a safe cracker. There's a fast talking guy. There's a guy that's good with electronics. His whole crew. But no, we wish the best for Roger. It's CZ that I have the real problem with here. I look at it and I think, what if I was Brian Armstrong from Coinbase, done everything right, slept in the business, practically a Boy Scout, no life, obsessed, addicted to it. And then he finds out he could have just done 4 months in prison. Do you know how good it was for Binance to have no AML, know your customer worldwide, everyone to know you could just get in there with a VPN and buy any kind of crazy shit coin you want, no matter what your government or better thoughts may have said about buying that terrible shit coin. Binance, CZ, only 4 months. Dan, Eve, what do you think about CZ and Roger Ver, both in trouble with the law this week?
So with Roger Ver, that seems like they're dragging out the past, right? Because wasn't this from like 9 years ago? It was the 2013, 2014 tax season, and also didn't he paid the like severance, right, for to become a not become a US citizen anymore, renounce his US citizenship. But they're saying that he undervalued the Bitcoin at the time. When and his argument for
Well,
that,
it is worth noting, Dan, that in case people haven't heard, and this is very strange
yeah,
and probably should be changed, but in the United States, they basically believe that they own you as a citizen. If
yeah,
you move to somewhere else, you pay taxes in the new place you live, and you pay taxes in the United States, which does sound like an onerous double tax bill. They don't care. If you want to leave like Roger Ver did, and we don't know any details about this, we're certainly not involved in Roger Ver's finances, but from public accounts, he went to St. Kitts and a small island somewhere. He paid them some money, and then he renounced his citizenship. But like I say, they own you. So in order to get out, you have to pay 10 years of taxes in advance based upon, I believe, your average previous taxes. And he probably had some big payments. I think this case might be about his businesses that owned 131,000 Bitcoin or more. But yes, in case you hadn't heard, the United States government owns you. And if you want to leave, it's 10 years up front. And yes, that sounds crazy, but that's unfortunately true. So
He should have
sorry,
stayed
Dan.
in Japan because they don't extradite people, and I kind of thought that's probably why he was in Japan. So the arrow's just going to Spain. He should have stayed in Japan.
It sounds
Sorry.
like he might have been traveling in Spain for vacation or maybe for business. I'm not sure why he was there. But yeah, good point, Ben. Oh, Dan, what happened to your audio?
His audio is fine. He's just lost his voice.
He's got one mute on, but one other mute off. No, we've lost Dan. See, it's the U.S. government and the tax code. You just really can't mention technical details like
We're
that
being attacked. We're
without
currently
you getting
involved.
your audio sent out. I mean, really,
Yeah.
like it's just a matter of like Dan's holding it up and saying he's charging it or something. But Ben, what do you think? While we try to get Dan fixed about CZ and Roger Ver.
I mean, these are it's the first, isn't it? The first cases against these OG Bitcoiner types who've got skeletons in their closet, and yeah, probably is related to his. I don't know, man. Roger Ver's just like he's that classic libertarian type, and didn't he run for part of the Libertarian Party in the US at some point? Those guys don't pay their taxes. They make a point of saying taxes are immoral and blah blah blah.
Well, the
Um,
previous case and the really one to look at here is the Ian Freeman case, where he was an activist. He was in New
mm,
Hampshire. He doesn't wear shoes, has dirty feet, and allegedly ran a Bitcoin ATM for a long time, taking money from it and so on and so forth. He's in real trouble. A lot of the OGs are in real trouble. Charlie Shrem, remember, famously worked with the feds, and the Fed said, "While you're working with us, we'd like to bust you for the same thing that we're investigating." Dan, are you back with us?
yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, so apparently he was also getting subsidies from US companies that he should have been declaring. So that's apparently the bottom sort of reading was part of the reason why they've got him. But but it's a crazy thing that they own you for so long, right? You've got to pay this dual tax thing is just insane, and even having to pay the tax on unrealized gains as well. You know, to half the assets that you've accumulated, the gain on half the gain on the assets you've accumulated is just insane. So what I think their argument was that the valuation was too low that Roger Ver gave, but he said, well, if I had to sell all the Bitcoin in one go, you know, that would have been half of 110 million. It's 55 million, which would have killed the market. So you wouldn't have got that valuation at the time. So that argument you can kind of see standing, but some of the other stuff, it sounds like he was a bit naughty, and it's not going to help his case that he was, because he's such a hardcore libertarian, that he has posted quite a few things about being anti-tax. So, you know, if you're kind of being publicly anti-tax and then you know, in this situation, it's not looking great for him.
Well, and that's the same thing I felt about the Ian Freeman situation, where you worry for these guys. They complain, and you say, well, if you're complaining this much about taxes, I sure hope you're paying them, right? Because the guys who are into that kind of thing are certainly going to look at your taxes and be after you and so forth. But yes, it's sad to see Roger fall into this trap. And as for CZ, I think he'll be all right. He seems to land on his feet. Exit question. Who would you rather be, Roger Ver or CZ? Dan Eve, go ahead.
Who would I rather be right now? Well, I think I'd rather be CZ, because he's got 4 months. That we don't know what Roger Ver is going to be slapped with. But he's also in Spain. He's going to be extradited. Obviously, you know, the last person who was the US government was after in Spain, obviously, was McAfee. So, yeah, let's hope it doesn't end as bad as that.
Ben Ark, Roger Ver or CZ?
It's a really hard question. I think CZ, just because the shorter time stint, but I kind of hope that Roger Ver will have like a bit of a, if he just goes to prison, he'll have a bit of a spirit journey, and he'll, you know, have a long time to think on his own, and he'll think, wait there, maybe I'm wrong, maybe, you know, Bitcoin Cash is stupid, and I should just go back to Bitcoin and get back on side when I leave prison. And so yeah, so hopefully it'll be like a cathartic experience for him if he does go in the clink. But I mean, obviously, of course, I hope he doesn't go in the clink. To be honest, his best bet is probably just to run back to Japan.
It is interesting, all this Roger Ver talk coming around the same time that Roger has just released a book. I haven't gotten a chance to take a look at it, but I do think, Ben, he continues to fight the Bitcoin Cash war and say he did nothing wrong and that kind of thing in the book. So it is bad timing. I think I agree with Dan. I'd rather be CZ, although he was so close to the door. The U.S. government almost let him back to Dubai or UAE or wherever he's hiding out. He could have gotten away with it all. It's not very mastermindy to end up in jail, even if it is going to be a short 4 months and probably a very safe and expensive country club jail for CZ. We'll see how it goes. Again, I think the real victim here, Brian Armstrong, does everything right. Still doing really good with Coinbase. We'll talk about it later. But CZ, 4 months. I'm sure Brian is calculating how much money Coinbase could have gone if they've gone rogue and let anybody use their service all over the world with the head start that they had, so on and so forth. Maybe it was better to be a pirate, Brian. Maybe you should have been a pirate. Moving on. Fulmo at Fulmo Lightning asks, which Bitcoin podcast that is still actively recording new episodes is the oldest Bitcoin podcast to your knowledge? Worldwide, but regional would be interesting as well. And we all know the answer to that. The World Crypto Network, and especially the Bitcoin Group, the show you're watching right now, is probably the oldest, longest running, continuing Bitcoin podcast. And check out worldcryptonetwork.com by DJ Booth, where we've got a Bitcoin show for every day of the year, including Leap Day. Moving on to issue 3. Issue 3, Morgan Stanley files to expand Bitcoin ETF access to 12 funds. Yes, Morgan Stanley, the American multinational investment bank, has filed a submission with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission to permit the exposing of Bitcoin ETFs to about a dozen of its investment funds. This way, their clients who invest in the investment funds will also get to invest in Bitcoin. Ben Ark, what do you think about Morgan Stanley, not a friend of Bitcoin, suddenly a friend of Bitcoin?
It's such a weird dichotomy which we've suddenly found ourselves in, where we've been wanting all these big ETFs to join Bitcoin and traditional finance to recognize Bitcoin, as an asset, and now they've come in and they're probably just going to try and control it. And there's all these coordinated attacks against privacy, and Bitcoin is a medium of exchange. So it's odd because you have the FUD of that, as Bitcoiners know that Bitcoin's being attacked, and then in the same regard, you've got all this money coming into Bitcoin. But I mean, they can't not, like, their customers will ask for it, and they'll have to do what their customers want. And now they can have ETFs; they're going to have ETFs. But like you say, like it's when they have interest in Bitcoin, and they want to keep it as a controllable sort of store of value, which isn't going to be blacklisted or attacked by governments because they've got ETF money in it. I think it's something none of us really predicted. We just kind of looked forward to an ETF happening quite naively, thinking that people would realize all of Bitcoin's value proposals and enjoy them as much as we do, whereas in reality they're like sailor types. They just want a store of value and it to be some boring Wall Street plaything, which we all know it's not destined to become. But yeah, so it's a funny one seeing these articles come out for these ETFs.
Well, we did predict it here, Ben, and I've already predicted the Bitcoiners will turn against Bitcoin and then come back to Bitcoin again later, just like that other famous story that's in the Bible. But it is kind of funny, Ben. It's like, thanks for all the work you did. We'll take it from here. It's that scene in the movies where the FBI comes in and they take it from the local cop, and they're like, "You did a great job setting up this case. All the work you did, telling everyone about the currency and everything. We've got it now."
They come with like their own troop of Bitcoiners as well. Like there's a whole bunch of Sailor fanboys in the social media, who are, I'll say something like, perhaps, someone like Sailor should actually contribute to some of these free and open source projects, which is the value of the asset which he's investing in is based upon. Like it's the pursuit of free and open source apolitical medium of exchange, which has given Bitcoin value and made it a store of value. And then people defend him and said, "Oh, he doesn't need to do that. He's contributing enough just by buying up all this Bitcoin." And who you to say to what Bitcoin is? It's just weird that there's this whole troop of new Bitcoiners who just aren't our people. It's a funny one.
Well, wasn't there a bit of controversy as well over the funding of core devs recently that Sailor was involved with? Did you hear about that? That he,
yeah,
I'm not sure it was legitimate,
okay,
but
well.
they were worried that Sailor was against the funding of core devs. But I think what Ben and I would probably find most interesting about that is a whole crew of people showed up and said, "Of course you shouldn't fund the core devs. What are you, some kind of socialist jerk? Like, we should take everything that they've made and make more money off it because we are the capitalists and we're here for the capital. We don't give a crap about the foundations of what built this, or if we need those in the future, especially we do." But yeah, don't you think that's it, Ben? They just classic.
Bitcoin, but it's this idea of ossification. Like they don't want Bitcoin to change. And that's the thing which Sailor's been shilling. But Bitcoin it's always been a work in progress. Like it's a gazillion times better than it was, and we no longer have to tell people that it's probably going to implode in on itself. Like it's pretty reliable now. But
well, and it's already been very hard to change. It's been very hard to change. But if it truly became ossification, whatever, I say it wrong, if it became a bone, right? If it turned into bone, the security problems alone, we can't be thinking that way. It's a classic security problem where you're like, well, I wish we could just harden our security problems and never change things again. We'll never have any new code in at all, right? But pretty obviously you have some kind of code you're not aware of that has a security problem or some situation you're not aware of. Like, let's say the government changes the way net neutrality works, they change the way the internet works. Bitcoin needs to adapt to this. If you had a completely ossified Bitcoin structure, you couldn't get any updates in to fix for this kind of thing. I mean, maybe he's just not a software guy.
Well, that was the sort of Roger Ver, Craig Wright angle, wasn't it? That Bitcoin is perfect, it shouldn't change, just get bigger blocks or and those people had to fork off because that's not what we want Bitcoin to be. Bitcoin needs to change and adapt and harden. But yeah, it's kind of a typical. This is why when the billionaire comes in and then all these people latch onto them and praise them and thank them for coming in on. We already got to question like the motives and incentives of these billionaires and also like what they're connected with as well. Like a lot of these people, I'm not going to accuse anyone of anything, but a lot of people they get to where they are because they're in bed with government and because they've been turned by agencies and etc. So I don't think we should really trust any billionaires who come into Bitcoin or any big fund who comes into Bitcoin, and we certainly shouldn't think that it's got Bitcoin's best interests at heart for us normal users.
Well, it seems like those entanglements might have gotten Roger as well if his companies relied on government subsidies, as we've often seen Elon Musk and Tesla relying on government subsidies, Ayn Rand taking welfare herself, government subsidies. Everyone likes to say in public that they are invincible and they've done it all themselves. And then they look back and they're like, yeah, I just carried it on the roads and had it on the ships that were protected by the Navy, and I used the satellite network, and it just seems like you used a lot of different people there together. But we were talking about Morgan Stanley. Dan, do you have more on this?
Yeah, I was going to say that picked up on a point from Ben actually that you were saying about how we were almost wanting the ETF there for the validation that from all the biggest asset managers that Bitcoin is an asset to be contended with, but we didn't really think about the oversight of how they would try and manipulate and control it, and how I think there's been a lot of evident actions, which some positive, for example the U-turn in since BlackRock got involved about how Bitcoin is actually environmentally friendly versus being whale boiling. So there are some benefits, but yeah, it does seem like the kind of party's been pooped, right? And the order of things in my head was that we financially liberated the world of the unbanked first, and then the bankers got involved. But now the bankers are involved first, and we've still got people who are unbanked. So that kind of solution is lagging behind at the moment. So hopefully we get some good layer twos to help bring them on board and realize
No,
that.
I definitely thought we'd have to go through this, the trough of disillusionment, the feeling of great despair. And that's why I was so glad so many people had gotten Bitcoin before that, especially like the Black Bitcoin billionaires and other groups like that, were small groups of people getting their community in. But it is, Dan, it's like the Wizard of Oz. Bitcoin went through all that, and they said, "Oh, it was you all along. You had the spirit inside you. You could have done anything." And then they're like, "Yeah, but we want the money too." So we had to do it. We had to let the banks in. We had to get the money. And it's just like everything else. Bitcoin's on the hero's journey. And this is the part where Bitcoin is taken in by the money lenders and the banks. And they're worried. They're like, what if Bitcoin has gone over to the other side? He's dressing in nice suits now. He's changed. He's not like he was. And then on the other side, they're like, Bitcoin is still the same. He's the same Bitcoin we always had. But let's keep moving to issue 4. Coinbase integrates Bitcoin's Lightning Network in partnership with Lightspark. We've talked about it happening, but it's finally here. Coinbase has given in. SegWit 2x, no more. SegWit, no more. The war is over. Coinbase integrates Lightning Network. And Coinbase posted $1.2 billion in net income in quarter one, surpassing their entire 2023 earnings. You can see the tractor right there. It's a field full of money. A field full of money. Ben Ark, what do you think about Coinbase finally adopting the Lightning Network? Now we can move on to bothering whoever's next.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really trust this Lightspark thing, I'll be honest. They got it's one of the ex-PayPal boys, and it's a $200 million VC investment. And if you go on their website and you sort of read between the lines, they're praising Lightning as a payment rails. But Bitcoin is kind of almost an afterthought. So I think sometimes that we see shitcoins as the testnet for Bitcoin functions, and I think quite often they're seeing Bitcoin as a testnet for their fiat shit. And yeah, like they've got this partnership with Coinbase, but I guess it's good that Coinbase have starting to accept Lightning, but a bunch of other exchanges have already done it, like Kraken, and they've done it properly off their own backs, and they've got their own nodes, and they're not relying on this extra party. And I just don't trust Lightspark. I mean, I think the reason I don't trust them really is because they're like a dead corporate version of LM Bits, which is a thing we work on. So I kind of get annoyed at the fact that they've raised $200 million, but so maybe I'm just butthurt over that. But yeah, the PayPal boys, Peter Thiel, Musk, whoever the Lightspark dude is, don't trust them.
It does seem like putting it through another box where you could say, hey, we'll take 10% of this and we'll take 10% of that. And people say, why is the Lightning Network so expensive on Coinbase? And it could be because they're passing it through someone else's system. And maybe they're having their own database and they can track all the users. I don't know. I don't have any evidence on this. But no, it does sound bad. Like you said, Ben, it would be much better if they had it in-house like Kraken did. Dan, Eve, what do you think? Coinbase, they've got the earnings, they've got the Lightning Network, kind of.
Yeah, well, it's good. It seems it's good that they've got it implemented, but it does seem weird that they went through a third party. And there was that tweet that Brian Armstrong did a few years back, or a year or so, saying how the reason why they're implementing Lightning or they're taking so long is because it's very challenging to implement, which we all know isn't actually that challenging to implement. Because I've worked on projects that have done it within a week. So I'm not sure why they needed a third party, especially one as like Ben said, that they picked one that's so kind of heavily over for kind of VC funded when they could have gone for something that's a bit more like roots, grassroots sort of movement. And pick someone, pick some of the core developers up who've been working on things like that, rather than actually going for a kind of big VC backed company. But they're doing good, we're at the start of the bull run. We've had the halvening now, so things are starting to pick up. They're probably going to do pretty good over the next couple of years, especially as we have probably another shitcoin explosion. And not just that, but they're also, their revenue from Base, their new chain, right? That's a big revenue spinner on its own. This new Coinbase kind of Ethereum EVM chain. So we're probably going to see quite a lot of profit from that too. I think Coinbase is it's definitely going to be around for a while. Whether people like it or not, they've got their fingers in a lot of pies, a lot of shitcoin pies.
So I just flicked through the Lightspark website, and it's apart from the banner at the top where it says it's live, Coinbase integration of Bitcoin Lightning powered by Lightspark. And then if you look at their website, it's like enterprise grade, fast, secure payments on Lightning, blah, blah, blah. Lightspark enables low cost, interoperable, and secure transactions accessed in real time using Lightning Network, blah, blah, blah. And then it's not till you scroll right down the bottom there, right down about the Lightning Network. And then Bitcoin's mentioned once on their entire website. So yeah, don't trust them. They're using our shit. And it's not, yeah, they don't care about Bitcoin.
Ben's made up his mind, but I was going to say, what else could we expect from Brian? He's a .com startup guy. He'd use a .com startup to get them Lightning. But it would have been better to do it in-house. Does make sense. Probably still butthurt from the war. Moving on to issue 5, bonus issue. Oliver Koblenetz writes on Twitter, I'm actually losing brain cells listening to Michael Saylor at this conference. Let's put everything on the blockchain. I want to put my home on the blockchain, my ID too. It's the future. And they have a picture of a Saylor wearing kind of a Vitalik-esque t-shirt here. And then we've got this from Fred Kruger at Kruger writes, Saylor MSTR using slightly modified approaches ordinals to store identity on Bitcoin. Makes sense. Don't hate on ordinals. Lots of applications for Bitcoin and a data layer. And I don't know if you guys have heard, I don't follow Michael Saylor that closely, but yes, the great hero has fallen to the earth. They worshipped and they worshipped and they blew the balloon up. And now the balloon has come back down. Saylor and MicroStrategy have some kind of an identity-based system for Bitcoin. They want to mark all the ordinals and mark all the Satoshis and track your identity. And nobody seems to like it except MicroStrategy, who would make lots of money. Dan, Eve, what do you think about the heroes of Bitcoin, how we keep building them up and tearing them down with MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor just being the most recent? Nobody knows anything yet about El Salvador and the big heavy briefcase.
Well, that wasn't on my bingo card for 2024, right? MicroStrategy coming up with some kind of ordinal / inscription product, and then going down the hole. We need to put IDs and stuff on the block. We need everything on the blockchain. It was like straight back to 2017. Yo, like we're gonna put grapes on the blockchain. We're gonna put wine on the blockchain so that you can see which grape the vine came from via the blockchain, and all these crazy things they're putting on the blockchain. So it does seem like it kind of seems quite reminiscent of a 2017 ICO type pitch to a certain extent. Obviously, it's using Bitcoin, which is slightly different. It's got obviously got a few people's backs up who are saying that Bitcoin is pure money, because Saylor was one of the kind of Bitcoin is pure money crowd, right? Now he's saying that we can use it for the chain for data. So he's cursed the sacred blockchain, blasphemed against the sacred, the synchronomity of whatever it is of the blockchain space. So yeah, it's going to kick off another interesting discussion, right, as to whether Bitcoin should be just purely money, or we should be using Bitcoin as the protocol as for data and other all sorts of other messaging as well. So timestamping and whatever. I think at the end of the day, if you're willing to free market, right, if you're willing to pay for the block space, then you're paying for the block space. So, and ultimately, it would make the whole Bitcoin as a store of value have more of a case, because there'll be more utility, and the more utility there is for Bitcoin, But he's also rubbed up a lot of the Ethereum the wrong way, hasn't he, Saylor, recently? Because he said in that same presentation that he thinks Ethereum is going to be dubbed as a security, and a bunch of other coins are going to fall as well. So, he's upset a lot of people this week. Old Saylor, you put these guys on these pedestals. Now bring your little crocodile tears.
It has been exciting. It's great to watch. Ben Ark, what do you think about Michael Saylor and his new project to mark all the Satoshis?
Yeah, Sailors, I mean, Christ, what a surprise. And all those people, like when I went to those conferences and Sailor would rock up, like in Madeira, and they're all cheering. And I didn't go to his talks. I'm like, this guy doesn't contribute anything to all these projects, like I said, which the value of Bitcoin is based on. Like, it's the talent and the people working in Bitcoin which give it value, and the ethos behind Bitcoin. And it's a cypherpunk like technology, like Saylor is an attack on privacy, and he's an attack on the cypherpunk methodology, and that's why he's rallying for ID systems to be connected to ordinals. He doesn't care about privacy. And let's go back to the old Cypherpunk manifesto. Therefore, privacy in an open society requires anonymous transaction systems. Like, that's why we're here. Like, Bitcoin is a cypherpunk project. Don't try and fucking coerce it with your shit fucking ID grabbing corporate bollocks, Saylor. So I'm glad that the people are waking up to the fact that the guy's a knob, and shouldn't be trusted. And hopefully they'll learn from that experience, and won't trust the next billionaire who comes along. Again, as always, anyone who hasn't read the Cypherpunk Manifesto, please read the Cypherpunk Manifesto. Google it. It's about 8 paragraphs, and it's still the best explainer as to why Bitcoin is needed, and why we all work on Bitcoin and love Bitcoin.
It was very difficult to take, Ben, as we watched Saylor use his connections, his power, and his money to borrow more money to buy Bitcoin, to borrow more money to buy Bitcoin, to borrow more money to buy Bitcoin, each time celebrated and cheered on by the Bitcoiners who didn't have the connections, didn't have the money, and couldn't just create a company where it was like, our plan is to buy Bitcoin. I mean, I wish that had worked. We all could have done that. That was really easy, right? Everyone in the audience is kicking themselves now. We could have started that company, but we didn't have the connections. And I agree with Ben. Maybe if Bitcoiners would choose a little bit better with their heroes, they wouldn't always have to tear them down. There's this idea that they're now, we always have to tear down our heroes. It's because we're so good at policing our community, or because our heroes turn on us. Maybe it's because we're crap at picking them. Maybe we should pick better. And now, speaking of heroes and our celebration of the week, shout out to DJ Booth at DJ Booth 000007 on Twitter. DJ Booth is unfortunately shutting down Tallycoin app due to low usage. He'd like to say he appreciates all the support he's received, specifically related to Tallycoin, since 2018. Despite making it into the Bitcoin history books in 2022, it shall not go out with a bang, but with a whimper. And we all remember that Tallycoin was used by the Canadian Freedom Truckers after GoFundMe shut them down. They were criticized for showing the same Bitcoin address for all donations. The new Tallycoin eliminates reuse, but you can see there it's on the Tucker Carlson show. They even had a picture of Tallycoin. And again, this is a good example of where we might not agree with the truckers, or certainly Tucker Carlson, but Bitcoin is for everyone. I helped with DJ Booth with the Tallycoin tool. And even if we disagree with these people, we're proud they were able to use Tallycoin to fundraise, and just hope it goes well for everyone. Shout out to everyone else who worked on Tallycoin. It was a great app. Shout out to DJ Booth. You can check out his other apps, Bitcoinal, at bitcoinal.com or xsats at xsats.net. He's always working on something new. Anyone have anything else to say about Tallycoin? It was a cool idea. You could raise Bitcoin and have a fundraiser, like a counter kind of for how much money you'd raised.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Cool
I
idea.
used it once for funding a trip to Vegas to the Unconfiscatable conference. So that was really cool. So it was amazing. Everyone chipped in, and then we went out there and did a bunch of interviews. So I hope it paid off. So that was awesome. It was a great little app to be able to use. So it's a shame that it's going, for sure.
Was cool. I think we used it several times to plan trips and to raise funds, like Dan was saying. Ben, more on this?
Yeah, DJ booth is great, man, and Tallycoin was amazing. It was off of the back of one of your shows, wasn't it, Thomas? Where you said that you wanted a kind of Kickstarter type fundraising platform on Bitcoin, and Tallycoin was the first, and it was a great application, and now we have things like Geyser Fund and a few other ways in which people can fundraise. But like DJ Booth said, it's cool. He's in the history books as the pioneer. And I certainly very much enjoyed that period where, it's people just building shit. We needed something, we built it, and then the world used it. And it's always hard to have to give up on a project, but I can see why he has, because it's always requires maintenance. And yeah, good luck to DJ Booth. I'm sure he'll go on to do other amazing projects.
Yes, we had an early version of that app, Ben. It was called Block Raiser, I think it was, and my roommate was writing it. And it was very cool. It was just the basic idea that you could put up a Bitcoin address and then you could monitor it and you could kind of pretend that it's a fundraiser. The website wouldn't have any control over the funds, but if someone donates $10, you could update the $10. And as long as you had a goal, say $100, you could say with that $10, we're 10% closer to our goal. And these two basic things, you can help people fundraise, raise money for a guitar, raise money for a trucker protest, raise money for whatever you like. But I do think, like Ben said, newer options have come along, the Lightning Network, other ways to raise funds. But I'm sure DJ Booth will be out there again with another new app soon.
Jack said he loves watching the price on Bitcoinal, and it's true. It's the best place to watch the price.
Yeah.
It is good. Check out Bitcoinal, bitcoinal.com. It's a great one, and it's great to use on your YouTube shows. It was kind of developed back when we were doing Today in Bitcoin. Has all the useful stats at the bottom. But let's go to Dan Eve, prediction or a story of the week. Go ahead, Dan.
Oh man, I don't know either. I say I think. Oh, okay. I think we're going to go back up to 7. I think we'll be above 70K by the next show. That's my little mini prediction. Fingers crossed.
Dan Eve predicting the price. He's going after the 8 balls, trying to take him down. Ben Ark, prediction or a story of the week. Go ahead.
Story of the week. We have a demo server in LM Bits, and we test stuff on it. And very sadly, we got hacked and we lost funds, and that was a shame. But that's why the demo server exists. But the problem is too many people were using the demo server in production. How much we pleaded with them not to use the demo server. So it was a sad occasion, especially because that demo server really is. So I restarted it and created a new one. But especially with that demo server running for 4 years, hopefully we'll be able to resuscitate in some form. Maybe we've been trying to kind of work it out, and we might be able to track some of the funds down. So that's been the week for me is chasing the filthy hack who stole the money. But now we made it a little bit more explicit that it is a demo server, and told people not to leave money on there. And the great thing about LM Bits is, of course, you can use extensions like bolts to swap out to on-chain to limit the risk you have using anyone's LM Bits server. And you can also use Scrub to push payments to an LN address. So if you do ever use our demo server, please use the Scrub extension or the bolts extension. And then apart from that, I'm getting very excited about BTC Prague. I think it's going to be the best, the greatest conference of the year. They have a great Dev Hack Day, which has been organized by a lot of the Polis Prague lot, Stick and some of the Satoshi Labs lot. So that'll be great. So if you can get to BTC Prague, it's June 13th, I think, then please do come along. We'll have a great time, and we'll build some stuff and hack some stuff. And that is a true cypherpunk conference. So please pop along if you can.
Very cool, Ben. Sounds like a great time. And we have one more thing. They made a really cool video about curio cards. If you guys don't want to watch it, I understand. But here's a really cool video about a project that I did back in 2017 called Curio Cards. Let's check it out.
History's greatest tales have unexpected triumphs. History's greatest tales have unexpected triumphs.
A historic NFT collection on sale at Christie's today. A set of curio cards, digital collectibles.
To falter, then fade away into oblivion. Forgotten, like ancient art made by some nameless soul. And then be found again, resurrected and hailed on the art world's ultimate stage. That's the greatest form of comeback. That's the greatest history. That's the Curio Cards tale. It was written on the blockchain, May 9th, 2017. Travis Ulrich, Thomas Hunt, and Rhett Creighton. The community, the marketing, the development came together in San Francisco and made the first art show on Ethereum. 30 cards by 7 artists, none of whom knew each other, each with a different style. Philippe, Crypto Graffiti, Crypto Pop, Robeck World, Daniel Friedman, Marisol Vengas, and Thoros of Mia. The show launched 1 month before CryptoPunks, before NFTs had a name. Thousands upon thousands of cards released in smart contract vending machines. But because they were new technology, nobody saw the bigger picture. Nobody bought curio cards. Nobody valued the art. Only 4 years later did people realize curio cards were the most prized assets on Ethereum. Because of their unique art history, only after this rediscovery did curio cards become the top-selling art collection on OpenSea. Collect curio cards and unravel its layers, the sets, the stories, the community. Preserved for 1,000 years in the Arctic World Archive, auctioned at Christie's and Sotheby's within the same month, treasured by over 5,000 collectors including Daryl Morey and Gary Vee. Only 111 full sets will ever exist.
320 Ethereum, sold with you 3338. Thank you very much.
Which history will you own? Go to curio.cards to begin.
Man, that's so sick.
That was
amazing.
awesome.
When you have your picture of you being sold in Sotheby's and Christie's, you know you've made it. Fucking hell, well done, Thomas. Absolutely. I remember seeing the curio card shows on World Crypto Network and just like skipping over them, and it's bad.
Well, that's what we had a chat one time, and Jesse from Kraken was in the chat, and they were like, "Yeah, did you know about Thomas's project?" And he's like, "Yeah, I heard about Thomas's startup, but I didn't think it would be worth $1 billion." It's like, yeah, I agree, man. No one thought that. So, no, it's really cool to have that video, and it explains it so succinctly. And so many crazy things happened to the project, like it being left there for 4 years with no interest at all, and then the sudden takeoff of interest. So it's been really cool. It's really rewarding. It's great that they made that video. That was by the Curio DAO, so kind of a Curio Card supporter group, and I think they did a really good job. Got a lot of good stuff in there, and I'm glad they had everyone's names as well. So, but we've talked. Go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
No, that's really cool. It's it's amazing to see that collection. You're actually pictured in that collection as well. That it's just really weird to see it. It's cool, man.
Yeah, it is strange. I got a couple of NFT history type books, kind of art history books they've made, and the Tashin one on NFTs, unfortunately, doesn't mention myself, Travis, and Rhett. But like you say, it does have my picture, and thanks to kind of our foresight, Travis and Rhett's picture as well, because we're all drawn as the cartoon characters. So that turned out really well for us. They can't exclude us. We're everywhere. So,
That's nice.
but yeah, it's really cool, and it's great to be included. And also, we were included in the NFT yearbook. So check
And
that one out.
that really is why this show is the best, isn't it? Because throughout the whole of Bitcoin's history, there's just been such innovation in the show, man. Like the Tallycoin thing, and like curio cards, and all the other. I can't even think.
Well, and pro tip as well. We had Chris Ellis joined us for the Halvening show at the very end. If you guys go to the end, you can see Chris. And we worked on a project. This was on the original Bitcoin layer, but it was an automatic tipping tool where every website you go to that had a Bitcoin address embedded in the header or the footer, it would time how long you went there. And then based on an allowance, it would tip you like $10 a week, and it would cut up $1 to that person, $1 to that person. And it was a really cool idea, and I think it was way ahead of its time, but also financed and developed here on the World Crypto Network. Yeah.
Oh, well, isn't that Brave, right? That's essentially Brave token, like the attention.
Yeah, we were out before Brave.
Yeah.
So a lot of things, we look at that and we wonder, did Brave look at our interface and have some good ideas? And back and forth. But yeah, you guys can check out Pro Tip. It's still out there, and the code's there even on GitHub. You can make your own version with the Lightning Network. But we're running out of time here. So thanks everybody for joining us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up down below. We want to try a new thing at the end of the show here. If you made it this far, put a surfer emoji into the chat down below or into the comments. And in general, in the comments, just mention a bunch of surfer things in case the YouTube algorithm won't let you through with just an emoji. But yeah, say like, surf's up, dude. I saw this on this other guy's video for people that make it to the end, and I thought it was kind of fun. You won't get anything. It's not a giveaway or anything, but I just thought it would be fun. So surf's up. Thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, bye.